votes. As soon as they're done, we'll announce them. We will now move forward to hear from our candidates for Lieutenant Governor. At this time, I recognize Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, fellow Democrats. I have the privilege to know many of you, but for those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Sabina Matos, and I'm the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island. I'm here today to ask for your support and for your endorsement to continue to do this work as the Lieutenant Governor for the next 4 years. 20 years ago, when I came here, I never thought that I was going to be standing in front of you and asking you for your support to be the Lieutenant Governor. When I moved here to Rhode Island, I came in, as many of you have done it in the past, and many of your families did in the past. I came in, I started working in the jewelry factory, eventually went to CCRI, graduated from Rhode Island College, go Rick, and I was a young mother, single mother. I could have never imagined that I would have the opportunity to represent my community first of all, in the Providence City Council, after the president of the Providence City Council, and now as Lieutenant Governor. It has not always been easy to do the work that I've been doing, but I have gotten support along the way from many of you that are here in this room today, and I'm grateful for that support. My experience allows me to bring a different perspective and a new perspective to government, and I represent voices that not all the time get the opportunity to have a seat at the table. Since I started as serving in this role, I have been a Lieutenant Governor for every Rhode Islander. I have had the opportunity to visit all 39 cities and towns and to talk to all of you. I have made housing a priority for me in this role, and at every time when I visit any of the communities, I get the same response. I just came back from Long Island this week, and housing is a big issue, bigger than what it was when I was there the last time. A small business is part of the work that we do at the Office of Lieutenant Governor, working with our senior community and supporting our military families. I'm asking you for your support and for your endorsement so I can continue to be a strong voice for all Rhode Islanders in government for the next 4 years. I'm honored to be here in front of you, and I thank you for what you do to keep democracy alive. In this next election, a lot is going to be at stake because the Republicans are coming for us, and we have to be ready.
At this time, I recognize Senator Mary Ellen Goodwin for the purpose of a nomination. Larry Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the Rhode Island Democratic State Committee, I rise today on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos and wish to place her name in the nomination as a candidate for the office of Lieutenant Governor. I've had the pleasure of knowing Sabina since she was first elected to the office of City Council for Ward 15 in Providence. Lieutenant Governor Matos has provided honorable and trustworthy representation to her fellow general officers, state legislators, and local municipal leaders as part of a more expansive role in the office of Lieutenant Governor. She has distinguished herself as a highly effective and accomplished officer, both in her capacity as Lieutenant Governor and previously as President of the Providence City Council. Her ability to skillfully craft solutions, work with the General Assembly, as well as her legislative experience in municipal government, has been recognized by her fellow elected officials as one of her greatest strengths and clearly demonstrates her leadership capabilities and qualities. I am proud and honored to have the opportunity to provide this personal and professional reflection as a truly outstanding individual who has made a difference in the lives and outcomes of the people she serves. Her passion for the shared goals of all Rhode Islanders begins with her humble beginnings as a native of the Dominican Republic and her relentless work ethic as she aspired to become a United States citizen and share in the American dream. What a remarkable achievement in itself, let alone the privilege to seek public office and earn the trust and respect of her community in first electing her to the City Council, then to Council President, and now as the state's 70th Lieutenant Governor, seeking to continue that role, no small accomplishment by any means. As a woman of color and the first Afro-Latina to serve in state office, she has always espoused the values of equality, fairness, and inclusiveness that today seem to be in line with much of what society embraces, but did so at a time when it was not easy to stand up for, but to her credit, she did just that, even when her voice was in the minority. In that regard, I humbly and respectfully place the name of Sabina Matos into nomination for Lieutenant Governor and ask for your consideration and support for her, and I'm certain that she will continue to serve the citizens of the state of Rhode Island in an exemplary fashion. Respectfully, Lawrence Mancini, Smithfield Democratic County Region.
For the purpose of second, J. Mark Ryan. I recognize J. Mark Ryan. Senator Quesada. Thank you, Senator. At this time, I recognize Senator Cynthia Mendez.
I fully recognize the improbability of this moment. The likelihood of a Cape Verdean and Puerto Rican single mother, healthcare worker, would be in this room right now. Talking to this group right now, at this point in history. What it would take to get someone like me in this room. What it would take to get someone here who doesn't just believe that housing is a human right, but dedicated my life to it. What would it take to get someone here who doesn't just believe that we should have Medicare for all, but have witnessed firsthand the crushing human cost of what happens when our political leaders do the bidding of the health insurance industry. To get someone here who doesn't just take a stand against gun violence when it makes national news, but I grew up in a home that practiced nonviolence. And in the housing projects where I lived the cost of gun violence. And even as recently as 2019, lost someone who called me mom from a bullet in her head. What would it take to get someone like me in this room? It takes brave Democrats like Jennifer Rourke, like Senator Jeanine Culp, and my running mate Matt Brown. People who run unapologetically on their values. They created a pathway for others. People like me to be in this room right now as a state senator and candidate for lieutenant governor. I do not expect that I will win the endorsement of the Rhode Island Democratic Party as it exists right now. But I firmly believe that the way the Rhode Island Democratic Party exists right now is right for change. It is right for change because we have made mothers across the state of Rhode Island who are afraid to send their children to school because of gun violence march in the streets and beg to pass legislation. They won't forget that. This year we had a chance to pass legislation ending Rhode Island's ban on abortion coverage to protect abortion providers. We didn't do it. Do you think hundreds of people who marched outside the state house will forget that? Rhode Islanders want to be a part of a Democratic Party in a political process without feeling forgotten the day after an election. Without feeling like they're losing values when they vote. They want to find their values here. We can be that party. Rabbi Abraham Joseph Heschel, who marched with Martin Luther King, said, "Pray with your feet. We will march. We will knock doors. We will talk to Rhode Islanders until we are that party. A party that addresses the climate crisis boldly, racial justice, and finally taxes the rich. One that looks out for all of us until we are that party. The changes that we feel coming, that rumbling of change that is just a tremor. It is an earthquake of Rhode Islanders praying with their feet, moving toward a government that works for for them. Now is a new day. It's here. And it looks like the Democratic Party that will carry the cares of families in the State House. That party is the one I'm being a part of. I want to build. That is what we're voting on tonight. I urge you to vote with me.
I recognize Jim Marconi. Welcome, Doctor. It's your day, you're on the hit parade.
Good evening. My name is Mark Ryan. I'm a physician who's been practicing in this state for over 35 years. I'm also currently serving on my third term in Portsmouth County Council. That's been maligned a couple times now, but that's fine. Anyway, I rise and I'm proud to nominate Senator Cynthia Mendez for the Rhode Island Democratic Party's endorsement for Lieutenant Governor. Cynthia spent her life in service of the community, a value that she first learned from her father, who gave up law school in order to become an inner-city minister and a prison chaplain. Growing up, she learned what it means to take care of the most vulnerable, spending her Sunday mornings serving breakfast to the unhoused and mentoring youth in her community. As a single mother, Cynthia put herself through school and worked multiple jobs to take care of her daughter Francesca. As a healthcare worker in the dental field, Cynthia watched for years as Rhode Island politicians took campaign donations from the medical insurance industry while refusing to help sick Rhode Islanders receive quality, affordable health care. She sat with other single mothers in her role as a treatment coordinator as they were forced to turn down needed procedures for themselves so that they could continue to put food on the table and pay rent. Cynthia never imagined getting into politics, but after spending years trying to help her neighbors, being unable to do more than put a Band-Aid on the human suffering she witnessed, she decided to run for office, and now she represents East Providence and Pawtucket as a state senator. In the Senate, Cynthia's continued to fight tirelessly for the most vulnerable and to make our state a more just place. She worked on legislation to move Rhode Island forward toward a Medicare for all style universal health care system and used her experience as a survivor of gun violence to push for immediate measures to protect and prevent mass shootings. And now Cynthia is running for lieutenant governor, along with Matt Brown for governor and dozens of candidates for state and local office to make sure that every family can afford to put a roof over their head and get the health care that they receive. Cynthia exemplifies the type of leadership and bravery that our state desperately needs. I urge you to vote to endorse her as our next lieutenant governor. Thank you.
And next, I call on Jay Brooks for second.
Second.
Thank you. The nominations have been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will be balloting. Please remove the blue ballot for Lieutenant Governor from your packet. Please mark it, pick your choice, and the ushers will collect the ballots. I'll give you a minute to do that.
I'm coming.
Please, has everyone put out some votes up here? The ushers? If you have a ballot, please hold it up so the judges can see it. Last call for ballots. I believe we're all set. We are going to be moving on to Secretary of State. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is my extreme honor and privilege to introduce Representative Greg Amore.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman, Madam Vice Chair. I thank all my colleagues in government. I have been humbled by the broad support I have from my colleagues in government, from the members of the House, the Senate, mayors around the state. It is truly humbling to have that support. I want to thank Representative Alzate, who will nominate me, and Chairwoman Taylor, who will second that nomination. I want to acknowledge the fact that this is not easy, and I want to acknowledge all the candidates in the room with respect to Theodore Roosevelt and Ambassador Paolino. It is difficult to put yourself into the arena. It is challenging, and I admire and respect those that do that and that put themselves out there. Our democracy would be in peril if good people stayed on the sidelines. My name is Greg Amore. I am a history teacher, an athletic administrator at East Rapids High School. I've been teaching history and civics there for 27 years. I was at a Sackett Street Festival 2 weeks back, and a young woman said to me, "So a civics teacher could be Secretary of State, that's pretty cool." And I agree, that's pretty cool. I have spent my entire professional career civically engaging my students. And then I was elected to the General Assembly, where I'm proud to say that I have led the way on a multitude of issues that are very important to me and to the state, from education funding for English language learners, to school construction, to help for cancer patients who are suffering and need oral chemotherapy, protecting the victims of domestic violence, working to reform schools so that they are site-based managed and not from the top down, and in the area of voting. I'm a proud sponsor, second sponsor of the Let Rhode Island Vote Act. I'm the proud sponsor of the Civic Engagement Act, which requires students around the state to take at least one semester of civics and make sure that they are involved in a project-based lesson so that they can be active in their government. These are things that I've worked on with my colleagues that I'm extremely proud of. I stand before you today and humbly ask for your support and for your nomination. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Amore. At this time, for the purpose of a nomination, I recognize Representative Karen Alzate from the great city of Pawtucket.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, committee members. My name is Karen Alzate. I am the state representative and state committee woman for House District 60, representing the great city of Pawtucket, but also Central Falls. Shout out to my mayors. Well, thanks. I'm also the chair of our legislative Black Latino caucus. It is my honor and privilege to stand before you this evening to nominate my colleague, my friend, my mentor, and our teacher, Greg Amore, as our next Secretary of State. Greg is a graduate of Providence College, where he earned his bachelor's degree in history, and he graduated of New England College, where he earned a master's degree in public policy. Greg taught AP U.S. History and U.S. Civics and government courses at East Providence High School for 27 years. And he has served in the General Assembly as state rep for the last 10 years. During his time in the House, Greg has been a part of helping pass major legislation from marriage equality to school construction to codifying Roe v. Wade into law, and most recently, the Let RI Vote Act. making our elections more accessible to voters. Greg is knowledgeable in civics, history, and elections, is unmatched. In the House of Representatives, it is not unusual for our members to seek his wise counsel on a whole host of issues. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky. My friend, Greg Amore, is one of the most qualified people to run for this position. I am proud to nominate Greg Amore as the Rhode Island Democratic Party endorsement candidate for Secretary of State. Thank you.
Next, I recognize Susan Taylor for a second.
Proud to second.
Thank you. The nomination for Greg Maury has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will do this with a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Greg Maury is a Democratic endorsement. We will now move to endorse for General Treasurer. I recognize the Honorable James Diosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you, Senator Goodwin and Representative Shanley, for your nominations. And thank you to my better half, Senator Connor, who is here today. And thank you to every single Democrat in the room for standing up for our shared values in this difficult time. We all know that Rhode Island families are feeling squeezed. Over the past decade, many of you have had the chance to get to know me both as a leader and a member of this committee. You have gotten to know who I am and what I stand for. I've stood alongside you in protests for the rights of students and teachers, of workers and laborers, and now, more than ever, important, the rights of women. I stood up for our shared democratic values, and I've done it all here in our state. Now I'm coming to you humbly to ask for your support to be Rhode Island's next General Treasurer. My path to statewide office is different than most. In the 1980s, my father fled gun violence and corruption in Colombia in search of hope. Hope of a better life, not only for himself, but for his future family. He settled here in our state where I was born and raised. A state founded on the ideal of hope and grounded in freedom. A state where my family found both. I will always carry that same optimism and hope into every challenge I face. I have had the experience to lead. It's the type of experience that I learned by leading a city through the hottest financial and economic circumstances. Learned by taking a city through bankruptcy and collapse of the pension system. Learned by going into communities and seeing families of 5 or more living in a 1-bedroom apartment through a global pandemic. An experience like that comes with an education. It's not the type of education you get in the classroom, but the type of education that gives you the courage and ability to make hard decisions. The ability to communicate with all and relate to all Rhode Islanders, regardless of their social or economic status. To reach people where they are and to know firsthand how your decisions will affect their everyday lives. I want to be your General Treasurer because I know I can make a difference. As Treasurer, I have a plan to maintain the health of our pension systems through these turbulent economic times. Continue to build and modernize schools with a generational bonding initiative. Make housing affordable for all. Lend a hand to our small business by offering increased incentives to banks and credit unions who make low-interest loans. And address student debt. I'm invested in this state. It's given me the opportunity to be all that I am. And for my daughter, and for my children around the state just like her, I'm invested in its future. Thank you all for your consideration.
Next, I recognize Senator Mary Ellen Goodman for the purpose of nomination. Senator Goodman.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Today, I rise in enthusiastic support of James Diosa and recommend his nomination to be our next General Treasurer. James has the experience necessary for this office. Why? Because he has actually led and actually done many of the things the Treasurer is tasked with. And under the worst of circumstances, when he became mayor of Central Falls, he became the chief executive of a city that had reached a low. It was in financial and economic freefall, and he had declared bankruptcy. People had lost hope in the city's future, and wondered if it could ever recover. But James restored that hope in just 8 years. He revitalized his city. James got the city's finances under control and set Central Falls on a quick path to economic recovery. He fostered faith in government where there was little left. And he worked to modernize the city's schools and expand affordable housing opportunities. He accomplished all this with responsible, transparent leadership. James is a leader who listens, not only to the opinions of his advisors and field experts, but to the needs of his community. In my career, I've often found that this is what his true leadership is all about. It's about meeting people where they are and learning their needs and working towards a solution. It is this experience, this style of leadership, and this perspective that we need at a statewide level. James will be an energizing force in our state government, and he has a vision for the future of this office. You heard from him here tonight. James was born here, he was raised here, and most importantly, James is invested in the state's future. If James can lead Central Falls with bankruptcy and make that the comeback city, just imagine what James Diosa could do for us on a statewide level. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator Goodman. Next, for the purpose of a second, I recognize my colleague from the great city of Warwick, Representative Evan Shanley.
Second.
Thank you. It's my pleasure at this time to recognize Stefan Pryor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to thank my nominator and seconder, Melissa Travis and Rich Delfino. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all. My name is Stefan Pryor, and I'm running for General Treasurer. I'm honored to be before you, and what I want to talk to you about is a little bit about my background. I want to talk to you about how our economy is going and how we can continue to strengthen it. Then I want to talk about the role of the General Treasurer's Office in doing so and why I'm best equipped to do it. So, first of all, a bit on background. I am the son of 2 public school teachers, proudly so, and my parents taught me at the table, growing up, that you have to give back. They taught me by showing me their lesson plans and how they were directly giving back to the next generation. And they taught me through their example how every day they worked to serve the children of society, the children in their classrooms. They imbued me with the spirit of public service, and I've undertaken public service throughout my career. I'm proud to have served as the state's Commerce Secretary under 2 governors. I've served for 7.5 years, which I'm told is a record for the top economic development official in our state. We've seen ups and downs in the economy, and I've been part of a team that's helped to guide us. Now, when we talk about the state of our economy, there are still small businesses, there are still businesses of every size that are struggling. There are households where there are individuals trying to get back on their feet. There are vulnerable families and communities in our state, as there are across the country. But we should be proud, you've heard previously here tonight, Rhode Island has one of the strongest economic recoveries in the country. As a matter of fact, Moody's says that we are number 2 out of 50 in the strength of our comeback coming out of the COVID economic downturn. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Massachusetts is 42nd out of 50, we're second New York is 50th out of 50. We're second. We're finally helping to lead the way, but we need people in public office, in the key offices, who know how to guide us through thick and thin, through up and down. The treasurer must be a public official with that kind of experience. As treasurer, I will ensure that not just when there's a lot of federal money flowing in, and not just during the tough times, but during all times, we support our small businesses and all businesses. We support the vulnerable. We enable people to access the banking and credit union system of our state and don't have to keep money under mattresses. We are going to ensure that we invest in affordable housing, and we invest in our infrastructure to help us actually get through any economic downturn that happens, where people have roofs over their heads, and there's infrastructure that functions, and there's jobs for Rhode Islanders. Ladies and gentlemen, after September 11, 2001, I was called into service to help rebuild the World Trade Center site. I was the head of the public agency to do so in New York. We had billions of dollars flow in for the purpose of investing in that public infrastructure. We did so responsibly, we did so effectively. I can manage billions of dollars of public funds. I can do it well while growing the economy. Let me do that for you as your treasurer. Thank you very much.
At this time, I recognize Melissa Kravitz for the purpose of the nomination.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Melissa Travis. I'm the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Society of CPAs and Rhode Island Business Forum, and proud to represent District 52. I am honored to nominate Stephen Pryor for the office of treasurer. There is no one more qualified for this important role. Stephen is the quintessential public servant and why so many of us urged him to run. Under his leadership as Rhode Island's first Secretary of Commerce, I've seen more economic development than I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Stephen's work ethic, ability to lead, and enthusiasm for making our beautiful state both easier to do business and a better place for our families to live and work have been an inspiration to everyone. As president of the CPAs, I know firsthand the importance of having someone with the financial acumen to guide us through choppy waters and manage the state's finances in times of economic turmoil. Possibly the most important decision for Governor Raimondo Nabors was to tap Stephen Pryor as the state's first ever Secretary of Commerce. Throughout his public service career, Stephen has remained steadfast and taken action in uncertain times. As he just told you, when he was president of Lower Manhattan Development Corp., he helped rebuild Manhattan after September 11th, and he'll be just as remarkable in his role as treasurer. Stephen is a leader who's already left an indelible mark on our state. As treasurer, he'll protect the state's assets with sound investments and strengthen the state's financial position. His decades of experience managing billions in public investments are critical to strengthening our pension system, securing retirement income for our valued public servants. He'll break down barriers to banking, make it more accessible, and with his exceptional track record, I urge you to nominate Stephen Pryor for treasurer for the state of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you. For the purpose of the second, I recognize Chairman Richard Delfino.
Second.
Thank you. The nomination has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will begin balloting. Please remove the blue ballot for general treasurer from your packet. Fill it out, and the ushers will collect it. You guys have your cell phones or something? Right, just to show Okay, at this time we're going to continue. We are going to move on to Attorney General. It's quiet.
All right, check out your book. Now I'm going to go to
Are there any more ballots? At this time, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Attorney General Peter Neron.
Hello, everybody. Last time I was the new guy, but I want to begin by thanking you for your endorsement last time and your support, then and all the way through the last 4 years. I have had the great privilege of being your Attorney General. And when we spoke last time, we talked about a couple of things. One thing was, don't let the work come to you. Take the work to the people of Rhode Island. Do the work on their behalf and get it done. And the second thing we talked about was building a team that was fearless and prepared to fight for the people of the state of Rhode Island, to do what we believe was best for you. And in my view, we've done that. In the criminal division, where my prosecutors, 70 of them, are handling 14,000 felony cases, we have used our resources in such a way to go after the worst of the worst. Violent criminals using firearms and drug trafficking. We've done that through an urban violent task force that is breaking new ground in terms of technology and data to get people off the street that are harming Rhode Islanders every single day. I'm incredibly proud of the work of our civil division. One of the things I wanted to do, one of the things we talked about, was getting out on offense on behalf of the people of this state. And not to do healthcare by looking at the statute and checking the box, but doing healthcare in a way to make sure that the hospitals that serve your healthcare needs are going to be there 5 years down the road. So we were ready. Dr. Reese's daughter was ready when an out-of-state company tried to drive Fathom and Roger Williams hospitals into the ground and leave them bankrupt. We were ready. When a state agency won't stand up for Rhode Islanders, when their public utility is for sale, at least $200 million on the table for Rhode Islanders, we stood up got that money for Rhode Islanders and made sure that the Act on Climate will matter going forward. We are fighters. We are fearless. We will work for you in the 4 years ahead. So I humbly ask for your endorsement to be our Attorney General for 4 more years. Thank you very much.
At this time, I recognize Pam Lurie for the purpose of nomination. Pam?
Good evening. I'm Pam Lurie, Chair of the Barrington Democratic Town Committee, first Vice President of the Rhode Island Association of Democratic City and Town Chairs, and proud Democrat. Tonight, I'm proud to stand and nominate Peter Neronha to be the Rhode Island Democratic Party endorsed candidate for the Rhode Island Attorney General. When you think the words integrity and honesty, Peter Neronha immediately comes to mind. He is a true public servant who puts what is best for Rhode Islanders above all. Peter has spent his career protecting our state from violent criminals, corrupt public officials, and corporate wrongdoers. He has consistently opposed the Trump administration when its policies involving the environment, civil rights, and other issues negatively impacted Rhode Islanders. He has worked tirelessly to safeguard the environment, to protect the rights of consumers and workers, while protecting public funds from being stolen or wasted. As a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, I have had the privilege to witness Peter's advocacy for common sense laws to reduce gun violence. As Attorney General, Peter has testified and publicly called for laws that prohibit ghost guns, straw purchases, and open carry of long guns, increase the age to purchase a gun to 21, and limit high-capacity magazines to 10. His opposition to an amendment to grandfather high-capacity magazines was crucial in the successful passage of the original bill. As a Moms Demand volunteer, I've also witnessed Peter personally support victims of violent crimes. Whether it's a hug, his presence at a vigil, or the reassurance to victims and families that he will do everything in his power to get them justice, Peter is there for victims. As a healthcare provider, I appreciate Peter's objection to health insurance rate hikes as unaffordable during a global pandemic. His work on making manufacturers that contributed to our opioid crisis legally and financially responsible ensured Rhode Island will get the necessary funds to help deal with opioid addiction and recovery. Peter is always on the side of Rhode Islanders when assessing policies and regulations that affect our health and well-being. Peter is right on reproductive justice and the environment and so much more. It is with deep pride that I have the honor to nominate Peter Neronha for endorsement for the Rhode Island Democratic Party's Rhode Island Attorney General.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. With pride and honor, I second the nomination.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. The nomination for Peter Neronha has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. We will do this with a voice vote. All those in favor of nominating, making Peter Neronha the endorsed candidate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Peter Neronha is the endorsed candidate.
We're counting and we're double checking and doing, here's what
We're going to take a 10-minute intermission. There are food and sandwiches. Please come back and remember there's no food allowed in here.
10 minutes.
10 minutes
And then we're
and come back and
finished.
result.
You vote finish.